Open them. I'm not the one who's afraid.
A floating city survived a storm that should have erased it from the sky. The only reason it didn't fall was a human choice no alien logic could calculate. What happened next forced an entire world to rethink fear, usefulness, and what survival really means. If you're here, tell us where you're watching from. Subscribe to help this channel grow. And now, let's begin the story. The sunrise on Lyrith never quite looked real. Too soft, too pastel, like someone had painted the sky with watercolors and forgotten to add depth. Noah Bennett preferred it that way. Real things hurt. He knelt on the walkway platform, running his fingers along a stress fracture in the metal support beam. The crack whispered under his touch, a language he'd learned to speak fluently over 6 years of widowhood. Everything breaks eventually. The trick was knowing which breaks could be fixed and which ones you just lived with. Sarah would have called this therapeutic. He muttered to the empty air, then immediately felt stupid. Talking to dead people was supposed to get easier with time. It didn't. The city of Havenport skies floated 300 meters above Lyrith's agricultural valleys, held aloft by anti-grav systems so reliable they'd become invisible. Boring. Safe. Exactly why Noah had requested transfer here after the collapse. Not the structural kind. The other kind. Below him, early morning colonists moved through their routines. Humans mostly, with scattered aliens who'd chosen agricultural peace over whatever wars or policies had driven them here. He noticed the patterns, the Vecran traders who always took the left platform, the human families who avoided Section D entirely, and her, the archivist who never flew. Noah had seen her exactly 4 times in 3 months, always carrying boxes too heavy for her frame, always wrapped in robes too large for her body, delicate features, almost human except for the lilac eyes and that faint pearlescent shimmer to her skin, beautiful in a way that made people look, then look away quickly, like they'd seen something they shouldn't. She was struggling again now. 3 sealed containers stacked in her arms, wobbling as she navigated the lower market level. Noah watched colonists part around her like water around a stone. Not hostile, just separate. He was halfway down the maintenance ladder when it happened. The anti-grav system hiccuped. Just 3 seconds. Just a flutter in the field that kept thousands of tons of city suspended in air. But 3 seconds was enough. The archivist fell. Noah's body moved before his brain caught up. Years of construction reflexes overriding the part of him that had learned not to reach for things. He caught her at the waist, boxes scattering, and for one impossible moment felt something hard and angular beneath the flowing fabric of her robe. Not bone. Not exactly. Something deliberately compressed. She looked up at him, not with gratitude, not with relief, with pure animal terror. Not of the fall, of his hands on whatever she was hiding. Noah released her immediately, stepping back with raised palms. Sorry, the gravity flux. She gathered her boxes with trembling fingers, not meeting his eyes. Thank you, she whispered, and fled. Behind them on the lower market wall, a human child had drawn angels in purple chalk. Wings spread wide, joyful and free. The archivist didn't look at the drawing as she disappeared into the shadows. Noah stood there long after she'd gone, hands still tingling with the memory of whatever he'd felt. Hard, folded, hidden. In his pocket, his comm unit chimed with another maintenance request, another crack to patch, another system to shore up. He looked at his hands. 6 years fixing structures. Never people. Never himself. Maybe it was time to stop assuming he knew which things were broken. For 3 days, Noah told himself he wasn't looking for her. For 3 days, he was a liar. He found excuses to root through the archives level, checking air filtration, inspecting load-bearing columns, definitely not scanning the botanical storage rooms for a woman who'd looked at him like he was a threat instead of a rescue. The electromagnetic storm hit on the 4th day, turning Lyrith's pastel sky into a canvas of violent purples and silvers. Emergency protocols sealed the outdoor platforms. Everyone with sense moved indoors. Noah found her in the archives by accident. Or fate. Or whatever you called it when the universe decided to stop letting you hide. She stood by the observation window, watching lightning dance between the clouds. Her reflection in the glass was ghostly, translucent. And in that reflection, Noah saw what the heavy robes concealed. Wings. Massive, folded tight against her spine, compressed beneath layers of fabric. Even bound, they created contours that didn't belong to any human-similar skeleton. The lightning flashed again, and for one moment he saw the full outline. Elegant, powerful, painful. "The storm will pass in 2 hours," she said without turning. Her voice was steady, but her shoulders weren't. "You should return to upper levels. I prefer gray days." The words came out before he could stop them. The same thing Sarah used to say. That made her turn. Lilac eyes found his face, searching for mockery and finding only tired truth. "Why?" she asked. "Sunny days feel like they're lying. Gray days are at least honest about it." Something flickered across her features. Not quite a smile, not quite trust, but maybe the possibility of it. The archives smelled like old earth and preserved seeds, like someone had tried to save everything that mattered and alphabetized it for safety. Noah moved to the window, maintaining careful distance. Outside, the storm intensified, rain slashing horizontal against the glass. "I'm Noah," he offered. "Civil engineer, professional fixer of things that would rather stay broken. Eliara." A pause. "Botanical archivist. I preserve things." "What? The boxes you were carrying? Seeds?" "Heritage specimens. Terran oak, Vecran crystal fruit, Arelin sky bloom." Her voice caught on the last word, barely perceptible. Things that shouldn't be forgotten. Thunder rolled through the city's superstructure, a deep groan that Noah felt in his chest. He recognized that sound. Metal fatigue. Nothing critical yet, but getting there. "Can I ask you something?" Eliara's reflection watched him in the glass. "When you caught me, what did you feel?" Honesty seemed important. "Something you didn't want me to feel." "But you haven't told anyone." "Not my secret to tell." They stood in silence, watching the storm paint the sky in shades of violence. Outside, he saw a group of human children pressed against a lower window, pointing at the lightning, unafraid. One of them was drawing on the condensation. Wings again, always wings. "Do you know what they ask?" Eliara's voice was so quiet he almost missed it. "The children, they ask their parents why some aliens can fly but don't. And the parents?" She swallowed. "The parents tell them to stop staring. Kids ask better questions than adults. Adults have learned what questions cost." Noah thought about that. About 6 years of not asking why Sarah's car had to hydroplane that particular morning. About all the questions that only led to answers that didn't help. "You're afraid," he said. Not a question. "Every day." She finally met his eyes directly. "Aren't you?" "Terrified, just of different things." The storm screamed against the city. The lights flickered once, twice, holding. Eliara turned fully toward him, robes shifting with the movement. "Why do you talk to someone who isn't there?" Noah's breath caught. She'd been watching too. "You heard that?" "On the platform. Before I fell. You said a name." Her head tilted. "Sarah. My wife. Was my wife. 6 years ago." "I'm sorry." "No, don't be. I'm still figuring out if I am." Another silence, but different this time, shared instead of separate. "Thank you," Eliara said, "for not asking." "About the wings?" She flinched. "Not my secret," Noah repeated. "But if you ever want it to be less secret?" He shrugged. "I'm pretty good at keeping things standing that everyone says should fall." Eliara looked at him for a long moment. Then, so quietly it was almost lost in the storm. "Are you afraid of me, Noah Bennett?" He thought about her terror when he'd touched those hidden wings, about the way colonists parted around her. about children's drawings of angels that adults told them to ignore. "No," he said, and meant it. She turned back to the window, but her reflection was different now. Less ghost, more real. "The storm's getting worse," she whispered. "They always do before they break." Outside, lightning struck close enough to make the city shudder, and Eliara ran. Noah stood alone in the archives, rain hammering the glass, and wondered which of them she'd been more afraid of. The storm, or the possibility that someone finally wasn't. The tremors started small. A cup vibrating on a desk, a light fixture swaying. The kind of things you noticed and forgot in the same breath. By the second week, they weren't small anymore. Noah stood in Administrator Vexus's office, watching her segmented fingers dance across a datapad with mechanical precision. Vexus was Chimerite, all chitinous efficiency and logical perfection. She ran Havenport skies the way a computer ran programs, flawlessly, ruthlessly, without a single wasted motion. "Structural assessment complete?" Her voice clicked faintly, a byproduct of mandibular speech. "Yes, ma'am. Foundation stress is within acceptable parameters. The anti-grav array needs recalibration, but nothing critical." "And aerial support capabilities." Noah's hands tightened on his datapad. "Ma'am? In case of emergency evacuation, I need a complete inventory of all flight-capable residents." Her multifaceted eyes caught the light, unreadable. "Standard protocol." It wasn't standard. It was never standard. "I'll compile the list," Noah said. "Include usage frequency. Some capabilities atrophy without regular exercise." She dismissed him with a gesture. "Efficiency requires full resource awareness, Mr. Bennett." Resources. She'd called people resources. Noah walked the long way back to his quarters, tablet heavy in his hands. The list populated automatically from city records. Vectran traders with their gliding membranes, Cyrus scouts with their hover-capable biology. 3 registered Erlen. 3 had registered. He knew of at least one who hadn't. His finger hovered over the submit button. Eliara Thessin, botanical archivist. Flight status, unknown. Usage, none recorded. He changed it to NA and submitted. The tablet felt lighter after that. His conscience didn't. That night he found her in the botanical gardens, surrounded by growing things that didn't judge and didn't fear. She was cataloging seed pods, her movements careful, almost ritualistic. "You falsified official records today." Not an accusation, a statement. Noah set a covered cup on her workbench. "Coffee, heard archivists run on it." She stared at the cup like it might explode. "Why? Because you looked like you needed it?" "No. Why did you omit me from the aerial resource inventory?" So she had access to administrative filings. Interesting. "Same reason I don't ask about things that aren't my secret." Eliara's hands trembled slightly as she lifted the cup. She didn't drink, just held it, absorbing warmth through the ceramic. "You're risking disciplinary action." "Wouldn't be the first time I've broken rules for the right reasons." "You don't know my reasons. Don't need to. You've got them. That's enough." She did drink then, a small sip that seemed to cost her something. "This is good coffee." "It's mediocre coffee. You're just that tired." A sound escaped her, not quite a laugh, close enough to hurt. "There's a note attached," Noah said, already walking away. "For difficult days." He didn't see her read it, didn't see her fingers trace the simple words he'd scrawled. "For difficult days, you're not alone in them anymore." But he heard her, barely, as he reached the door. "Thank you." The tremor hit during third shift, stronger this time, long enough for people to grab door frames and count seconds. 8 seconds of the world tilting wrong. Noah was on site within minutes, running diagnostics on the anti-grav stabilizers. Everything showed green. The systems were fine, which meant the problem was structural, not technical. The city was settling, aging, coming apart in ways that couldn't be patched with optimism and engineering tape. He was still running numbers when he noticed it. Eliara's workstation, door ajar, lights on, but no Eliara. He found her in the bathroom, standing frozen in front of the mirror, her back to the door. The heavy robe hung open. Beneath it, wrapped around her torso in a complex web of biotextile bindings, were her wings. Compressed so tightly they'd become part of her silhouette. And they were bleeding. Small spots of deep purple red seeping through the beige fabric. Not dramatic, not dangerous, just constant, chronic, the kind of bleeding that happened when something was compressed past its tolerance day after day, month after month. Eliara. She spun, pulling the robe closed with desperate speed. You shouldn't be here. Neither should you. You should be in medical. I can't. Why not? Because if they see, her voice cracked, if they document medical evidence of wings, it goes into the system. And if it's in the system, Vexus can requisition access. And if she can access, Eliara's breathing was rapid, shallow. I become a resource instead of a person. Noah took one careful step forward. Let me help. You can't. I can bring medical supplies, proper dressings, pain medication. Noah. She met his eyes in the mirror. Why do you keep trying to fix me? I'm not trying to fix you. I'm trying to make sure you don't break. What if I'm already broken? He thought about conversations with someone who'd been dead 6 years. About transferring to the least important city on the least important planet. About learning to prefer gray days because sunny ones felt like lies. Then we're both broken, and we can be broken together, which is better than being broken alone. Eliara's hands were shaking on the fabric of her robe. On my world before the war, we had a saying, wings hidden are wings safe. On mine, we say nothing hidden ever heals. The lights flickered. Another tremor, smaller this time. A reminder that the city's problems were getting worse, not better. Eliara tightened the bindings, wincing. Fresh blood bloomed through the fabric. For difficult days, she whispered. But what about impossible ones? Noah didn't have an answer. The city trembled around them. And somewhere in an administrative office, Vexus logged a new file titled Emergency Protocols Comprehensive Resource Deployment. The storm was coming, the real one, and hiding wouldn't save anyone this time. Dr. Kent's office smelled like disinfectant and secrets. The old Saurian physician looked at Noah over wire-rimmed glasses that seemed absurdly human on his reptilian features. You want me to violate medical confidentiality for someone who isn't even my patient? Kent's voice was dry, rasping like sand over stone. Interesting moral framework, Mr. Bennett. I want you to help someone who's hurting herself rather than risk being registered as flight-capable. And you think I can fix this? I think you're the only doctor in Havenport who treated Arelin refugees during the Vigilance War. Noah leaned forward. I did my research. Kent's eyes, yellow and ancient, studied him for a long moment. Then the old doctor pulled up a holographic display. Medical diagrams of Arelin physiology bloomed in the air between them. Wings. Beautiful, complex, deadly fragile. Compression neuropathy, Kent said quietly. Every day those bindings stay on, she loses nerve function, permanently. He expanded an image showing a network of bioluminescent pathways through wing membrane. Arelin wings aren't decorative, Mr. Bennett. They're sensory organs, compressed like this. He made a sharp gesture. In 6 months, maybe less, she won't be able to feel them at all. In a year, they'll be dead weight she carries for the rest of her life. Noah's hands clenched. Can it be reversed? If she removes the bindings now, possibly, the damage is progressive. Kent closed the display. But she won't. I've seen it before. During the war, Arelin who survived did so by becoming invisible, by making themselves small, safe. His voice dropped. By choosing slow death over immediate danger. The war's over. Is it? Kent gestured at the window at the city beyond. Tell me, when Vexus looks at your friend, what does she see? A person, or a solution to her evacuation logistics problem? Noah had no answer. The Erlen were guardians once, Kent continued. Before humans made first contact, before the Council Wars, they protected trade routes, rescued stranded ships, guided lost travelers. His expression turned bitter. Then someone realized wings made excellent military assets. Forced conscription, genetic modification, breeding programs. He paused. Your friend likely grew up in a containment facility, had her wings nearly severed as a child. It's how they kept them compliant. Start the amputation, then offer a choice, serve or finish the cut. Noah felt sick. So when you ask me to help, Kent said, understand what you're asking. You're asking her to trust that this time wings won't make her a target, that this place, these people, will be different. He met Noah's eyes. Can you promise that? No, but I can promise I'll try. Kent was quiet for a moment, then he pulled out a medical kit. Antiseptic, proper dressings, pain suppressors. Show her how to change them without removing the bindings entirely. He handed Noah a small bottle. And this. It's a muscle relaxant. For the wings themselves, won't reverse damage, but might slow progression. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me if she's still flying in a year. Noah found Eliara where he somehow knew she'd be. The botanical garden's observation deck surrounded by growing things that asked nothing of her except to exist. I brought medical supplies, he said, setting the kit on the bench beside her, and I may have talked to Dr. Kent. She didn't move, didn't speak. He said 6 months, until the damage is permanent. I know. Eliara. You want to know why I hurt myself this way? She turned to face him and her eyes were red-rimmed. Because existing without frightening people is the only safety I've ever known. Because every time I even think about opening them, I see the camps, the surgical tables, the faces of people who saw wings and thought weapon. Her voice broke. You're asking me to choose between slow death and fast fear. It's not a choice. It's just dying differently. Noah sat beside her, close but not touching. I'm terrible at this, he admitted. The whole comforting people thing. Sarah used to say I had the emotional range of a structural beam. That got a wet laugh out of her. But I can tell you this. I've spent 6 years being afraid of living because Sarah died doing it. Afraid to connect because connection means loss. Afraid to fix anything in myself while I fixed everything around me. He looked at his hands. And I'm tired. I'm so tired of being afraid of the wrong things. What should I be afraid of instead? Living like you're already dead. Eliara was quiet for a long time. Then, will you show me how to use the supplies? Yeah, I will. They spent the next hour in careful clinical silence. Noah learned that Erlen blood was purple-red, like crushed orchids, that wing membranes were warm to the touch, that Eliara flinched every time he got close to the primary joint, some muscle memory of pain that went deeper than flesh. Kent also said you need to keep strength up, Noah said, finishing the last bandage. Proper nutrition, rest, probably some kind of exercise that doesn't involve compression. I can't exactly practice flying in my quarters. No, but you could. He hesitated. There's a private platform. Maintenance access only. Early morning? No one there. You're suggesting I risk exposure for exercise? I'm suggesting you risk survival. He packed up the medical kit. But it's your choice. Always your choice. She caught his hand as he stood to leave. Her fingers were warm. Why do you care so much? Because someone has to, and I'm tired of it not being me. 2 days later, Noah attempted to make traditional Erlen tea. He followed the instructions Kent had provided exactly. Precise temperature, specific herbs, careful steeping time. It tasted like sweetened dirt. This is horrible, Eliara said, trying not to laugh. It's not that bad. Noah, I can smell it from here. It smells like you murdered a garden. The instructions said, the instructions assume you have Erlen taste buds. She was fully laughing now, a sound he'd never heard from her. Bright and surprised like she'd forgotten she could. We taste bitter compounds as sweet. You basically made concentrated poison. Oh. The thought was kind. She took the cup from him, poured it out, and started over with regular tea. But maybe stick to human beverages. They sat in companionable silence, drinking properly made tea while the city hummed around them. Then the alarms started. Not a drill, not a warning. Full emergency evacuation protocols. Structural failure in Sector 7. Cascading system collapse. All personnel to emergency stations. Eliara's cup shattered on the floor. "It's starting?" she whispered. Noah was already moving. "Get to the shelters." "Where are you going?" My job." He was 3 steps away when the major tremor hit. 8.5 on the scale. The entire city lurched sideways. Support cables screamed. Somewhere, something critical gave way with a sound like thunder. And Noah knew with terrible certainty that everything was about to change. Whether they were ready or not, Sector 7 was dying in slow motion. Noah rappelled down the maintenance shaft, emergency lights strobing red across twisted metal and sparking conduits. Above him, 3,000 people waited in evacuation shelters, trusting that someone could stop the cascade failure before it spread to the main supports. He was that someone. Lucky him. "Bennett, status!" Vexus's voice crackled through his comm. "Cable array is compromised. Primary support is holding at 60%. If we lose the secondary stabilizers, the whole sector drops. Automated repair drones are en route. No time, I need a manual team, now." Manual teams are inefficient. Manual teams can improvise. Drones just follow programming. Noah was already pulling cable from his pack. "I need 5 people who aren't afraid of heights and don't mind possibly dying. Your call, Administrator." Static. Then, authorizing manual intervention. The team assembled in 4 minutes. 3 human engineers, 1 veteran rigger, and Kent, who showed up with medical supplies and a comment about foolish heroics being a human contagion. "And Eliara, what are you doing here?" Noah demanded. "I can carry supplies, I can help." "This is dangerous." "So is doing nothing." No time to argue. The sector groaned, metal screaming against metal. Noah divided the team, 2 on the eastern stabilizers, 2 on the western, him on the main cable array that was currently holding everything together through sheer stubbornness and prayer. Eliara stayed close, passing him tools, holding tension on cables while he locked them in place. Her hands didn't shake. She should have been terrified. Instead, she was focused, efficient, like the fear had burned through and left only purpose. "North cable is slipping," someone shouted. Noah swung over, muscles screaming. The cable had sheared through its housing, metal threads unraveling in real time. No time for proper repair. He pulled an emergency clamp from his belt, the kind engineers called last resort because it was. "This is going to hold for maybe an hour," he said into the comm. "Make it 2, Vexus replied. "Evacuation requires 90 minutes. "I don't negotiate with physics." "Then improvise. You claimed that was your strength." Noah looked at the impossible tangle of cables, the failing system, the city literally hanging by threads. Then he looked at the team. Humans who'd volunteered for possible death because someone had to. Kent, who was technically retired but showed up anyway. Eliara, who could have hidden but chose to help. "All right," he muttered. "Let's see how stubborn we can be." For the next 3 hours, they performed miracles with wire and will. The veteran rigger created a web of secondary supports that shouldn't have worked, but did. The human engineers rerouted power through damaged conduits using a method that would have failed any safety inspection. Kent somehow kept everyone conscious despite toxic fumes and near falls, and Eliara was everywhere, passing tools, holding positions, once catching Noah when his anchor slipped and would have sent him over the edge. Her hands were strong, stronger than they looked. "Got you," she said. "Thanks. We're even now. For the gravity failure. Pretty sure you're ahead." The sector held, barely, inadequately, but it held. 93 minutes after the crisis began, the last evacuee cleared the danger zone. Noah's team emerged from the maintenance shaft covered in grease, blood, and the particular exhaustion that comes from defying probability. Vexus met them in the command center. "Sector 7 is stable. All residents evacuated safely. 0 casualties." She looked at Noah with those multifaceted eyes. "Exemplary work, Mr. Bennett." Something in her tone made Noah's stomach drop. "However," Vexus continued, "this incident has revealed significant gaps in our emergency response capabilities. I'm implementing a comprehensive resource audit. All personnel will be assessed for emergency deployment potential." She paused. "Including aerial support capabilities. No exceptions." The room went very quiet. "Administrator," Noah started, "is that really necessary?" "Yes." "Efficient?" "Absolutely. We saved 3,000 people today through improvisation and luck. Next time, we may not be so fortunate." Vexus pulled up a projection showing the city's deteriorating infrastructure. "Havenport Skies is failing, Mr. Bennett. Systematically, progressively. The next crisis will be worse. I need to know every resource at my disposal." She meant every resource, every person, every capability, every pair of hidden wings. "You have 48 hours to compile updated capability assessments," Vexus said. Dismissed. Noah found Eliara in the botanical garden, staring at her hands. They were shaking now. Delayed shock finally hitting. "She's going to find out," Eliara whispered. No, we can't." She looked up at him, eyes red. "Kent will have to include me in medical assessments. My work record will show I was here during the crisis. And if Vexus runs a comprehensive audit—" Her breath hitched. "It's over. The hiding is over." Noah sat beside her, every muscle in his body screaming. "I'm sorry. You saved 3,000 people today. Don't apologize for that." "I'm not apologizing for saving people. I'm apologizing that doing the right thing put you in danger." Eliara's hands clenched into fists. "Do you know what's funny? For 3 hours down there I forgot. Forgot to be afraid. Forgot what I was hiding. I just helped. And it felt—" Her voice cracked. "It felt like flying." Noah reached over slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. He took her hand. "Whatever happens in 48 hours, he said, you're not facing it alone. You can't promise that. Watch me." They sat in silence while the city settled, while alarms finally stopped, while emergency lights faded to normal. Outside the garden, children's voices echoed in the corridors. Someone was singing, relief, gratitude, life continuing because people had chosen to stand between it and destruction. Noah's comm chimed. Message from Vexus. Capability assessment due 0800 hours. Aerial resource certification mandatory. No exceptions. Eliara saw it too. 48 hours. 48 hours, Noah confirmed. She stood, brushing dirt from her robes. The movement was careful, protecting the wings beneath. "I need to think." "Eliara, I know what you'll say. That hiding is killing me. That exposure might not be as bad as I fear. That I should trust." She looked at him. "But you've never been a weapon before. You don't know what it costs to become one again." She left before he could argue. Noah sat alone in the garden, surrounded by growing things and the smell of earth. His hands ached, his body ached, but worse was the knowledge that his victory today had bought someone else's nightmare. Outside, children drew pictures of the rescue on the walls. One of them had drawn an angel, wings spread wide, saving people. The child didn't know how accurate it might be, or how dangerous. Kent found Noah in the maintenance bay at 300 hours, staring at structural diagrams he'd stopped actually seeing 2 hours ago. "You should sleep," the old doctor said. "Can't, trying to find a loophole in Vexus's audit requirements?" "There isn't one. I checked." Kent pulled up a chair, moving with the careful deliberation of age. "I need to tell you something. About this city. About why hiding might be the only rational choice your friend has." Noah looked up. "Havenport Skies wasn't always a human colony," Kent began. "Before the Vigilance War, it was Erelin, a guardian outpost. They built the anti-grav technology, the floating platforms, the whole infrastructure. Beautiful. Functional. Perfect. I didn't know that. Most don't. The records were adjusted." Kent pulled up historical files, images of the city from 80 years ago. Different architecture. Graceful spires designed for wings. Landing platforms instead of walkways. During the war, the council decided the Erelin were too dangerous, too mobile, too hard to control. So they implemented the containment protocols. Noah's blood ran cold. What kind of containment? The systematic kind. They rounded up the population, offered a choice: surrender your wings or surrender your freedom. Most chose to keep flying. Kent's voice went flat. So the council made the choice for them: surgical containment, genetic suppression, for the ones they kept alive. Jesus Christ. The technology to build this city? Stolen from the people they murdered for it. The anti-grav arrays are Erelin engineering, reverse-engineered from corpses. Every platform, every cable, every stabilizer, built with knowledge extracted through genocide. The room spun. Noah gripped the table edge. Vexus knows this? Vexus sees it as historical efficiency. Resources were utilized, objectives were achieved. The past is simply data. Kent met Noah's eyes. When she looks at Eliara, she doesn't see a person hiding wings. She sees unused capacity, wasted potential, a problem to be optimized. Eliara survived this, the camps. She bears the scars, physical and otherwise. Kent pulled up a medical scan, encrypted, old. This is from 30 years ago, refugee processing. She was 7. The image showed a child with wings half-severed, infection spreading, trauma so severe the examining doctor had written "unlikely to survive" in the notes. But she did survive, through hiding, through making herself small, through learning that wings equal death. Noah stood, pacing. She said she'd rather die invisible than live as a weapon. Because she's already been a weapon, conscripted at 12, forced to fly reconnaissance missions through combat zones. If she didn't comply, they'd finish the amputation they'd started. Kent's hands were shaking. "I treated refugees after the war. Do you know what breaks first when you force someone to fly against their will? Not the wings. The spirit. They'd rather lose the wings than be forced to use them again. So what do I do? You can't fix this, Bennett. This isn't a structural problem. It's a choice between two kinds of death, and she's the only one who can make it." Noah found Eliara in the bathroom again. Same place, same position. But this time, the bindings were looser, and the bleeding was worse. "I tried," she said, not looking at him. "I tried to tighten them more, to make myself smaller, to disappear enough that even an audit wouldn't find me." Her voice was steady. Too steady, the kind of calm that came after crying, until there was nothing left. "But I can't make them smaller. They're already dying, and I can't kill them fast enough." "Elira, do you know what the worst part is?" She finally turned, and her eyes were hollow. "I spent 30 years being grateful they didn't finish the amputation. Grateful for the chance to hide, and now hiding is killing me anyway." A broken laugh. Same result, just slower, more polite. Noah moved closer. "Kent told me about the camps, the war, the city. Then you understand. This place exists because my people died. Every platform I walk on, every system I archive seeds for, built from their corpses. Her hands clenched. And now the same people who built this want to use me to save it. The irony is perfect. Vexus isn't evil. No, she's worse. She's efficient. And efficiency doesn't care about history or trauma or the difference between choice and force. Eliara's voice dropped to a whisper. She'll requisition my capability, phrase it as voluntary, make it logical, and when I refuse, she'll document the refusal. And then the next administrator will use that documentation to justify forcing the issue, because resources don't get to say no. I won't let that happen. You can't stop it. I can try. Why? The question came out broken. Why do you care so much about someone you barely know, someone who's already broken beyond repair? Noah thought about Sarah, about 6 years of talking to someone who couldn't answer, about learning to live with loss by refusing to live at all, about structural beams and emotional range and all the ways people avoid facing the truth about themselves. Because you're not broken, he said. You're surviving. There's a difference. Is there? Because from here they look the same. He sat beside her on the cold bathroom floor. Professional distance be damned. You want to know the difference? Broken things can't choose. You're choosing every day. Choosing to work. Choosing to help during the crisis. Choosing to let me see you like this. He gestured at the blood-stained bindings. That's not broken. That's brave. I don't feel brave. Bravery isn't feeling unafraid. It's being terrified and doing it anyway. Elira looked at the mirror, at her reflection surrounded by harsh fluorescent light. What if I choose wrong? Then we fix it. Together. You keep saying that. Together. Like it's simple. It's not simple. It's just better than the alternative. They sat in silence. Outside, the city hummed, unaware that its foundation was genocide and its future hung on one woman's choice between visible death and invisible dying. Noah's comm chimed. Emergency alert. Not another structural failure. Worse. Atmospheric warning. Electromagnetic storm forming. Category 5. Estimated arrival. 12 hours. Full evacuation recommended. Eliara saw it too. It's happening. We have time. No, we don't. She stood, wincing as the movement pulled at damaged wings. This is the choice, isn't it? Hide in an evacuation and lose what mobility I have left, or reveal myself and become exactly what I've spent 30 years avoiding. There has to be another option. You'd rather I die invisible, wouldn't you? Her voice was bitter. Comfortable, clean, no moral complications. I'd rather you live free, but I'll take living at all over the alternative. Elira laughed. It sounded like breaking glass. Living. Free. You can't have both when you're a resource, Noah. The comm chimed again. Vexus, citywide broadcast. All personnel report to evacuation staging. Priority sorting protocols in effect. Flight-capable individuals to primary transport. Elira's face went white. She's already sorting us, before the audit finishes, before I've even... She couldn't finish the sentence. Noah stood. I'm going to Vexus. I'm going to make her understand. She won't, because understanding doesn't matter when efficiency is the goal. Eliara pulled her robe closed, hiding the blood. Go. Do your job. Save who you can. What about you? She didn't answer. Noah left because the city was screaming alarms and people were depending on him. But he looked back once. Eliara stood in front of the mirror, hands on the bindings, expression unreadable. And he knew with terrible certainty that when he saw her again, everything would be different. The only question was whether she'd still be alive to regret it. The evacuation staging area was chaos organized by algorithmic efficiency. Vexes stood at the command center, directing traffic with the precision of someone who'd reduced human life to variables in an optimization problem. Group Alpha. Flight-capable evacuees. You'll deploy first. Carry emergency supplies to ground stations. She highlighted a section of the staging area. Group Beta. High-value personnel. Medical, engineering, administration, secondary transport. Another section. Group Gamma, general population. Tertiary transport pending Alpha and Beta clearance. Noah pushed through the crowd. You're prioritizing evacuees by utility? I'm prioritizing by survival probability and resource efficiency. Vexus didn't even look at him. Group Alpha has the highest chance of successful evacuation and can assist others. This is logical. This is sorting people like cargo. Yes, and cargo doesn't survive storms through sentiment, Mr. Bennett. It survives through proper logistics. Now she did look at him. Your emotional response is noted and dismissed. Report to Group Beta. I'm not leaving until everyone's safe. Well, then you'll die, because everyone won't be safe. The storm will hit in 9 hours. We have transport capacity for 70% of the population. Mathematics doesn't negotiate, Mr. Bennett. Neither do I. Then increase capacity, use more. There is no more. This is what we have. This is what efficiency looks like when resources are finite. She turned back to her displays. Dr. Kent, I need that aerial capability roster. Now. Kent appeared from the crowd, looking older than Noah had ever seen him. Administrator, I need to discuss the medical ethics of... You need to provide the data I requested. Discussion is inefficient. Forced deployment of trauma survivors violates... Nothing is being forced. I'm simply assessing capabilities. Vexus pulled up a file. I have 3 registered Aerolin in the city, but my preliminary scans show 4 distinct Aerolin biosignatures. Someone failed to register. Her multifaceted eyes found Kent. Someone with medical access falsified records. The crowd went quiet. I don't know what you're... Kent started. Don't insult me with denial. You have 30 seconds to provide the name, or I lock down medical facilities and run biometric scans on every resident until I find the discrepancy. Kent looked at Noah. The old doctor's expression said everything. I'm sorry. I don't have a choice. Forgive me. Eliara Thesson, Kent said quietly. Botanical archivist, Aerolin, unregistered flight capability. The words hit Noah like a physical blow. Vexus pulled up Eliara's file. Thesson Eliara, assigned to Group Alpha. Immediate deployment for... She paused, reading something. Medical notes indicate prolonged wing compression, reduced capability, inefficient. Her mandibles clicked in what might have been disappointment. Reassigned to Group Beta pending capability assessment. No. Noah stepped forward. She's not a tool you can assess and deploy. She's a resident with capabilities that can save lives. She's a person who spent 30 years being told her existence is threatening. You can't just, I can and I will. This is not a debate, Mr. Bennett. This is an emergency. Emotions are suspended. Efficiency is paramount. Vexus made a gesture. Security, escort Mr. Bennett to Group Beta Holding. He's emotionally compromised. 2 guards moved toward Noah. He backed away, hands raised. You're making her into exactly what she's been running from. I'm making her useful. There's a difference. Not to her, there isn't. Security grabbed his arms. Noah didn't resist. What was the point? You couldn't fight mathematics, couldn't argue with efficiency, couldn't save someone from logic when logic didn't care about trauma or fear or the difference between choice and coercion. They dragged him to Group Beta, sealed him in with other high-value personnel who watched with expressions ranging from sympathy to relief that someone else was being sorted. Kent appeared 20 minutes later, looking destroyed. I had to, the old doctor said. She'll scan everyone if I didn't. At least this way you chose for her. Noah's voice was flat. Took away the one thing she had left. Agency. The alternative was worse. Was it? Because from here they look pretty fucking similar. Kent sat heavily. Around them, evacuees huddled in designated zones, wearing color-coded bands that determined their survival priority: efficiency, logistics, mathematics. "I should have fought harder," Kent whispered. "During the war, after, I should have done more than just treat wounds and hide refugees, should have demanded justice, accountability, something." "You did what you could. It wasn't enough." Kent looked at his hands. "It's never enough." The holding area doors opened. Guards brought in new evacuees. Among them, moving like a ghost, was Eliara. She wore the blue band of Group Beta. Her robes were different, thinner, the kind that wouldn't hide anything if she moved wrong. Her eyes were empty. Noah went to her immediately. "Eliara!" "Don't." Her voice was mechanical. "It's done." Vexus made it very clear. Report for capability assessment or be removed from evacuation priorities entirely. She held up her wrist, on it a medical monitor. "They're tracking biometrics now. Wing movement, stress responses, making sure the resource is viable before deployment. You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do. Because if I don't, I die here. And if I die, nothing changes. But if I comply..." She swallowed. "Maybe I save enough people that the usefulness outweighs the fear. Maybe I become valuable enough that they'll let me exist after. As a tool, but at least existing. That's not living. No. But it's surviving, which is more than my people got." Children's voices echoed from Group Gamma. Someone was organizing them, keeping them calm with songs and games. Noah saw drawings on the walls. Angels, wings, hope. The children didn't understand they were looking at their own extinction. That efficiency meant some of them wouldn't make it. That mathematics didn't care about potential or innocence or futures not yet lived. "They're going to leave people behind," Eliara said, following his gaze. "Vexus's math, 70% survival, which means 30%. She didn't finish. "I know. The children will be in Group Gamma. Last priority." Her hands clenched. "Because they're not productive yet, not efficient, just potential resources. We can fight this, refuse to cooperate, force her to change the protocol. And then everyone dies. Perfect. Clean. Fair." Eliara's laugh was broken. "At least this way. Some live. That's the choice. Imperfect survival or perfect death." The lights flickered. Storm interference. Still hours away, but already affecting systems. Vexus's voice over the intercom. "Group Alpha to staging. Capability assessments begin in 20 minutes. All flight-capable individuals report immediately." Eliara stood. "I should go." "Wait!" Noah caught her hand. "Just wait!" "For what? A miracle? Those don't exist, Noah. Just math and momentum and people trying to survive in the spaces between. I'm sorry." "For what?" "You tried. You brought me medical supplies and terrible tea and kindness I didn't know how to accept. You falsified records and protected secrets and made me feel like maybe hiding wasn't the only option." She pulled away gently. "But it was always going to end here, with me choosing between kinds of death. At least now the choice saves someone else." She walked toward the staging area. Stopped. Turned back. "Thank you," she said, "for making me believe, even briefly, that wings could be something other than weapons." Then she was gone. Noah sank against the wall. Around him, evacuees prepared for sorting, for survival, for whatever mathematics demanded they become. A small hand tugged his sleeve. A human child, maybe 6, holding a drawing. "Are you a hero?" the child asked. Noah looked at the drawing. An angel with wings spread wide. Above it, written in shaky letters, "Heroes don't need to fly." "No," Noah said, "I'm not. But you tried. Trying doesn't matter if you fail." The child considered this. Then, with the brutal honesty of youth, "My dad says trying is what makes you human. Failing is what makes you try harder." The child left the drawing and ran back to Group Gamma. Back to the 30%. Back to whatever mathematics decided they were worth. Noah held the drawing. Outside, the storm gathered, and somewhere in the staging area, Eliara prepared to open wings that had been prison and protection both. Not for freedom, for logistics. The breaking point had arrived, and they were all, every one of them, broken in its wake. The rebellion started quietly. Too quietly for Vexus to notice until it was too late. It started with parents in Group Gamma refusing to separate from their children, then with engineers in Group Beta demanding family units stay together, then with someone, Noah never learned who, overriding the holding area locks and mixing the groups. By the time Vexus realized what was happening, 300 humans stood between her and the staging area doors. "This is inefficient," she announced. "You're compromising evacuation protocols." "Good," someone shouted back.
"You'll die." "Then we die together, not sorted, not processed, together." Vexus's mandibles clicked in agitation. Emotion is not a survival strategy. Neither is treating people like cargo. Noah pushed through the crowd to find the source of the resistance. Kent stood at the center, holding medical documentation. "I did the math differently," the old doctor said,
projecting files on every screen in the staging area. "Vexus's protocol assumes optimal conditions. No complications, perfect execution. But storms don't care about optimal. They care about chaos." He highlighted evacuation failure points. Her 70% survival, that's best case. Realistic case, with panicked evacuees and limited transport, we're looking at 40%, maybe less. "Then we need more efficiency, not less," Vexus countered. "No, we need redundancy, flexibility. The thing humans do better than any species in the galaxy, improvise when everything goes wrong." Kent pulled up historical data. Every major human survival event succeeded not through efficiency, but through stubborn refusal to optimize people into categories. They survive by choosing each other over mathematics. Sentiment will kill you. Maybe. But efficiency already has. Kent's voice hardened. 60 years ago, efficiency determined the airline were a resource problem requiring permanent solution. How'd that work out? This city exists because of genocidal efficiency. I'm done enabling it. The crowd murmured agreement. Vexus looked at the blockade, calculating. "You're proposing we abandon evacuation protocols entirely?" "No, we're proposing we stay." A human engineer stepped forward. "Storm's coming, fine. We've survived storms before. We reinforce the city, manually, together, all of us. The structural damage is too severe. Then we'll be severely stubborn." The engineer grinned. Human specialty. Noah found himself moving forward, joining Kent. "I can stabilize the primary supports if I have enough hands. Won't be pretty, won't be optimal, but it'll hold." "For how long?" "Long enough." Vexus was silent, processing. Then, "You're choosing collective death over selective survival." "We're choosing collective survival over selective abandonment." Kent met her multifaceted gaze. "And we're choosing it for everyone, including the airline you wanted to use as tools." She volunteered. No, she complied. "There's a difference." The staging area doors opened. Eliara stood there, still wearing the medical monitor, still wrapped in thin robes that wouldn't hide anything. But her eyes weren't empty anymore. They were furious. "I heard everything," she said quietly. "Every word." Vexus turned. "You should be in capability assessment." "You want to assess my capability? Fine." Eliara reached for the bindings beneath her robes, stopped, looked at Noah. "Do I open them for you? For orders? For efficiency?" "Open them because you want to," Noah said. "Or don't. Your choice. Always your choice." Eliara's hands trembled on the fabric. "What if I can't? What if they're too damaged, too broken, too—" "Then they're damaged and broken, and we find another way." Noah stepped closer. "But don't open them for Vexus. Don't open them for the city. Don't open them for me." He met her eyes. Open them for you, if you want to, when you're ready. And if I'm never ready? Then we figure it out without wings. Humans are good at that. We fell out of trees and conquered planets. We'll manage. The crowd pressed closer, not threatening, just present. Humans and aliens both. A Vecran trader, a Cirrus merchant. 3 kids from Group Gamma, all of them choosing to stand instead of flee. Vexus watched, calculating. This is illogical. Probably, Kent agreed, but it's human. And sometimes human beats logical. Oh, the storm will kill you. Maybe, but you'll kill us for certain if we let you sort us into survival brackets. The old doctor gestured at the crowd. We're done being resources. Done being optimized. Done choosing between bad and worse. His voice rose. We're choosing impossible instead. And we're doing it together. The crowd roared agreement. Vexus stood motionless for a long moment. Then slowly, her posture shifted. Explain your alternative protocol. Noah pulled up structural diagrams. We need teams at every major support junction, manual reinforcement, constant monitoring. When something fails, and things will fail, we adapt, improvise, fix it with whatever we have. That's not a plan, that's chaos management. Yes, that's what humans excel at. Vexus looked at the diagrams, at the crowd, at Eliara, still holding the bindings, still choosing. Probability of success? Unknown, but better than 40%. That's not acceptable. It's what we've got. Take it or calculate survival percentages from whatever transport pod you run to. Noah crossed his arms. Your call, Administrator. For the first time since Noah had met her, Vexus looked uncertain. Her mandibles clicked rapidly, processing variables that didn't fit into neat categories. Humans who'd rather die together. Efficiency that killed more than it saved. Mathematics that couldn't account for stubbornness. This violates every protocol, she said finally. Yes. Resource allocation will be suboptimal. Probably. Casualties are likely. Definitely. And you're choosing this anyway. The crowd answered together. Yes. Vexus was silent. Then, why? Iliara answered, her voice carrying across the staging area. Because symbols become bones, and bones hold up everything else. You taught us that. You built this city on the bones of my people and called it efficiency. Now we're choosing different bones. One's made of choice instead of force. Probably. Still broken. But ours. The crowd erupted in cheers. Vexus looked at them all. 300 humans and aliens choosing impossible over optimal, choosing each other over mathematics. Fine, she said, but I'm documenting this disaster in triplicate. When it fails, I want credit for the warning. When it succeeds, Kent corrected, we'll credit you with being flexible enough to allow it. I'm not allowing it. I'm accepting inevitable insubordination, whatever helps you sleep at night. The crowd dispersed, organizing into teams, engineers with structural knowledge, medical with trauma supplies, even the kids from Group Gamma carrying tools and messages and hope. Noah found Eliara in the chaos. You didn't open them, he said. No, but I chose not to. That's different than hiding. She looked at the medical monitor on her wrist. I can take this off now. Vexus isn't tracking resources anymore. Are you going to? Eliara reached for the monitor. Stopped. Not yet. Not because I have to wear it. Because I want to know if I can still fly. When I choose to. If I choose to. She met his eyes. Is that okay? Oh, it's your choice. It's always been okay. The storm warning alarms blared. 6 hours. Maybe less. Time to find out if stubborn beats optimal, Eliara said. Humans have pretty good track record there. Let's hope it holds. They moved to join the teams, not as resource and manager, not as flight-capable and ground-bound, just as people choosing to stand between destruction and each other. Above them, the storm gathered. Below them, the city waited. And somewhere between impossible and optimal, humanity prepared to do what it did best: survive through sheer refusal to give up on each other. The storm hit early, because of course it did. Noah was 3 levels down when the first electromagnetic pulse knocked out half the city's systems. Emergency lights flickered, support cables groaned, and somewhere above, 3,000 people trusted that stubbornness would outlast physics. Time to find out. Team Alpha, North supports. Noah's voice crackled through comms. Team Beta, Eastern stabilizers. Team Gamma. He looked at the kids who'd insisted on helping. You're on supply runs. Nothing heroic. Just keep tools and people connected. Bo. The children scattered, fearless in the way only kids could be. The storm screamed. Wind slammed into the city's superstructure with enough force to make metal sing. Rain came horizontal, mixed with electromagnetic discharge that turned the air visible, crackling purple-white across every surface. Noah's team worked the main cable arrays, replacing sheared bolts by touch because visibility was measured in inches. Beside him, human engineers and alien traders moved with synchronized desperation. When one slipped, 3 others caught them. When tools failed, they improvised with whatever came to hand. This was humanity's answer to optimization. Chaos management powered by sheer refusal to quit. North Cable is failing. Someone shouted through the comm static. Noah swung over on a safety line, rain hammering his face. The cable was unraveling in real time, threads popping with sounds like gunshots. He pulled an emergency clamp, the same kind that had barely held Sector 7. It wouldn't hold this time. Too much stress. Too much damage. I need a secondary line, he called. Now! Nothing. The supply runners were caught on another level, blocked by debris. The cable snapped. Noah grabbed for anything, caught a maintenance rail, felt his shoulders scream as his full weight hit. Below him, 300 meters of empty air and hard ground. Above, a city held by threads and prayer. Bennett! Kent's voice, distant, panicked. I'm good, he lied, vision graying at the edges. He wasn't good. His grip was slipping. The rail was wet. His shoulder was separating. And below, the ground waited with mathematical certainty. Something massive moved through the storm. Wings. Eliara appeared through the rain and lightning, wings spread in flight for the first time in 30 years. They were enormous, translucent membranes stretching 4 meters across, veined with bioluminescent channels that glowed blue-silver in the storm's fury. Beautiful, powerful, damaged. She flew wrong, asymmetric. One wing clearly weaker than the other, compensating with raw determination instead of grace. But she flew. Grab on! She screamed over the wind. Noah reached, missed. His grip failed. He fell. Eliara dove. She caught him 10 meters down, wings screaming with the strain, both of them tumbling through the air in a barely controlled descent. She pulled up at the last second, landing hard on a lower platform, both of them crashing in a tangle of limbs and damaged wings. You're flying! Noah gasped. I'm falling with style! Eliara was shaking, wings spread across the platform, bleeding from a dozen stress fractures. The bindings! They did too much damage. I can barely feel the left wing. Can't control altitude properly. Can't. You're flying. I'm broken. And flying. Not the same thing. Close enough. Another pulse hit. The eastern stabilizers gave way with a crack like thunder. The city lurched 15 degrees. Screams echoed through the comm system. Eliara looked up at the failing structure, at the people trapped in the upper levels, at the children who'd drawn angels and believed in impossible things. I can't save everyone, she whispered. You don't have to, just the ones you can reach. She stood, wings trembling. Blood dripped from the membranes mixing with rain. If I fly again, I might not come back. The damage is too severe. This could be it. Then make it count. Eliara looked at him. Looked at her wings, broken and bleeding and somehow still capable of defying gravity. Looked at the city dying in slow motion. I'm not your weapon, she said quietly. I'm not your shame. I'm just me. And that's enough. She launched into the storm. What happened next, Noah would remember in fragments. Images burned into memory by lightning and impossibility. Eliara, flying through electromagnetic discharge that should have killed her, using her empathic air sense to navigate by feeling instead of sight. Her wings stabilizing cables that humans couldn't reach. Damaged membrane somehow still strong enough to bear weight. The moment a support beam failed and she caught 3 falling evacuees, flying all of them to safety even though the strain made her scream. Kent and his medical team, working the lower levels, keeping people conscious and fighting while the city tore itself apart. The kids from Group Gamma, running supplies through corridors that shifted and buckled, too brave to understand they should be terrified. Vexus, abandoning her command center to physically hold a collapsing doorway open while families evacuated, efficiency finally failing in the face of something she couldn't calculate, the choice to matter. And humans, everywhere, humans, doing impossible things because someone had to, and mathematical probability was just a suggestion they decided to ignore. The storm raged for 3 hours, 3 hours of everything almost failing, 3 hours of patches and prayers and people choosing each other over survival probability. The main support cable snapped at hour 2. Noah watched it happen in slow motion, the last major connection between the city and the ground severing with finality. The city should have fallen. Eliara flew into the gap. She couldn't hold the weight. No one could. Her wings were already torn, bleeding, failing. But she positioned herself at the stress point and spread her wings wide, becoming a living brace between sections. "What are you doing?" Noah screamed. "Buying time! Seal the secondary supports! You'll die! Then hurry up!" Noah and his team worked with speed born of desperation, welding, clamping, praying to engineering principles and whatever gods listened to humans who'd chosen impossible. Eliara held the gap for 6 minutes. 6 minutes of her body becoming the bridge. 6 minutes of wings designed for flight turned into structural support. 6 minutes of choosing pain over failure. When the secondary supports finally locked, she fell. Noah caught her this time, both of them collapsing on the platform. Her wings were destroyed, not metaphorically, literally torn in places, membranes shredded, bioluminescent channels dark. "I can't feel them anymore," she whispered. "At all. You saved us. I broke myself saving you. No, you chose yourself. Finally, this time it was your choice." The storm began to break, not suddenly, just gradually, exhausted, like even nature couldn't maintain that much fury forever. The city held. 3,000 people emerged from shelters into dawnlight filtered through clearing clouds. 0 casualties. 0. The impossible percentage. Vexes found Noah and Eliara on the observation deck hours later. The administrator looked different somehow, less certain, more organic in her uncertainties. "I calculated a 97% probability of total structural failure," she said. "Mathematics doesn't account for stubborn," Noah replied, clearly. Vexus looked at Eliara's ruined wings. "The medical team says you'll never fly again." "I know. Was it worth it?" Eliara thought about that, about 30 years hiding, about 6 minutes choosing, about wings that had been prison and protection and weapon and finally, briefly, purely her own. "Yes," she said. "Because this time, I chose it. That makes all the difference." Vexus was quiet. Then, "I'm recommending the Council adopt new protocols regarding resource assessment. It appears my calculations failed to account for variables I couldn't quantify." "Like what?" Noah asked. "Like the fact that efficiency isn't the same as effectiveness, that mathematics describes what is, but can't prescribe what should be." Vexus looked at the sunrise. "That sometimes the optimal solution is the one that can't be calculated." She left them there, 2 broken people watching dawn paint the sky in colors too soft to be real. "I'll never fly again," Eliara said. "I know, and I don't regret it." "I know that too." She leaned against him, exhausted. "What now?" "Now we rebuild. Slowly, imperfectly, together." That sounds human. It is. Below them, children were already drawing on the walls, new pictures. Not angels this time, just people, standing together, holding each other up. Humanity in all its broken, stubborn glory. Fuck yeah. 6 months later, Havenport skies looked different. Not structurally. Noah and his teams had rebuilt the damage with the same efficient, inefficient chaos that had saved them during the storm. But different in the ways that mattered. In the spaces between the math. The first accessibility ramp designed for wings had been Eliara's idea. Even damaged, even grounded, she understood flight in ways humans never would. The ramp spiraled upward, catching thermals, allowing airline and other winged species to launch without the running start that traditional platforms required. "It's not for me," she told Noah when he questioned the design. "I'll never use it, but someone else will. Someone who shouldn't have to hide what they are to feel safe existing." 3 other airline had registered in the city since then. Young ones, born after the war, who'd never known the camps but had inherited the fear anyway. They flew now, openly, imperfectly, free. Noah found Eliara in the botanical gardens, surrounded by new growth and old memories. Her wings hung differently now, no longer compressed, no longer bound, but not quite functional either. They'd healed partially, enough to maintain limited gliding, but the damage from 30 years of containment and 6 minutes of impossible bravery had been too much for full restoration. She could glide maybe 10 meters on a good day. She said it was enough. "Kennth cleared the last refugee today," she said, not looking up from the seedling she was transplanting. "Airline family from the outer colonies, they heard about the city that chose people over protocols. We're going to need more housing. We'll figure it out. Humans are good at that." Noah sat beside her, joints protesting. He'd acquired a collection of scars from the storm, a rebuilt shoulder, and a recurring dream where he was falling and no one caught him. Kennth said it was normal, trauma wrapped in metaphor. He'd learned to live with it. "I stopped talking to Sarah," he said suddenly. Eliara's hands stilled in the soil. "When?" 3 weeks ago. I was working on the new platform designs and I started to tell her about the load distribution problem and I realized," he swallowed, "I realized I wanted to tell you instead, that you'd actually answer. That answering mattered more than the comfort of one-sided conversations with the past." "What did you want to tell me?" "That I'm terrified, that I spent 6 years avoiding connection because connection means loss, that I care about you in ways I don't have words for. That it scares me more than any structural failure ever could." Eliara set down the seedling, turned to face him. "I'm terrified too. I spent 30 years learning that being seen meant being hurt, that safety came from invisibility, that wanting anything beyond survival was dangerous." She reached out, dirty fingers finding his. "And then you saw me anyway, and didn't look away, and didn't try to use what you saw." "I should have done more. Protected you better. Stopped Vexus before." "You can't save people from their own choices, Noah. You can only stand beside them while they make those choices." She squeezed his hand. "You stood beside me. That's more than anyone else ever did." In the gardens around them, children played. Human and alien both. Wings and limbs mixing in games that had no rules about who could fly and who couldn't. Someone had drawn a new mural on the eastern wall. Humans and airline building together, wings and hands creating something that couldn't exist alone. "Vexus resigned yesterday," Eliara said. "Did you hear?" "She told me. Said she was accepting a position with the council focused on ethical resource management, which I think is administrator speak for I was wrong and I'm trying to fix it. A character development through crisis. Very human of her. We're a bad influence. The worst." They sat in comfortable silence, watching things grow. The gardens had become Eliara's project, transforming from simple seed storage into a living memorial. Every species the Erlen had cultivated before the war, every plant the camps had tried to erase, growing again, remembering. I saw the new couple's registry, Noah ventured. First interspecies union officially recognized. 2 engineers from the storm teams, human and Vecran, they're disgustingly happy together. Good for them. Good for everyone who sees them and realizes difference isn't dangerous. Noah gathered his courage. Speaking of which, yes. I didn't even ask yet. You were going to ask if I wanted to be listed as your partner in the housing registry. You've been working up to it for 3 weeks. The answer is yes. I'm that obvious? You're that terrible at hiding things? It's endearing. He laughed. She laughed. And somewhere between broken wings and rebuilt structures, something new took root. The flash-forward hit 6 months after that, but Noah remembered it like yesterday. Eliara directing the first aerial transit program, teaching grounded humans how to design for flight they'd never personally experience. Her wings spread in partial extension, demonstrating angles and thermals, making disability into specialized knowledge. Noah presenting structural designs that accommodated both walking and flying, both grounded and airborne, creating architecture that assumed difference instead of fearing it. The Festival of Wings, organized by those same children who'd drawn angels during the evacuation, an annual celebration not of flight itself, but of the choice to be visible. Erlen flew overhead, but humans participated too, wearing symbolic wings made of fabric and hope, Vexus returning for the dedication of the new council legislation. The Thessin protocols, they called them, after the archivist who'd broken herself choosing freedom, new regulations ensuring capability could never again be weaponized, that hiding could never again be the only safety, that resources were people first and tools never, and the quiet moments between, Noah and Eliara building a life in the spaces where broken met healing, met acceptance. But that was later. For now, they sat in gardens full of memories and futures, watching the sun paint the sky in shades too soft to believe. You fly differently now, Noah said, watching her wings catch the light. They moved in ways they shouldn't, damaged patterns creating new beauty. I fly like myself, imperfect, real. She looked at him. You build differently too, less about making things unbreakable, more about making them resilient. Learned from the best. We both did. Above them an Erlen child flew past, newly confident, wings spread in joy instead of fear. They waved at Eliara, who waved back with a wing gesture that meant, fly free. The child did. I need to tell you something, Eliara said suddenly, about the storm, about those 6 minutes holding the support gap. You don't have to. I want to. She took a breath. When my wings were bracing the structure, taking all that weight, tearing with every second. I wasn't thinking about the city, or the people, or even survival. What were you thinking? That for the first time in my life, my wings were exactly what I chose them to be. Not hidden, not weaponized, not someone else's decision. Her eyes were bright. Mine, completely mine. Used how I wanted, when I wanted, for reasons I chose. She smiled. It hurt. God, it hurt. But it was perfect anyway. Noah understood. 6 years of talking to ghosts, and now he spoke to someone who answered. 6 years of fixing everything except himself, and now he was learning that broken things could still be beautiful, could still matter, could still build something worth protecting. We don't promise perfect, he said quietly, repeating words from a conversation that felt like lifetimes ago. Eliara finished it. We promise present. She extended her hand. He took it. Her wings spread partially, damaged membranes catching the evening light, casting shadows over them both. Not protective, not hiding, just existing. Openly, imperfectly, theirs. In the distance, the city hummed, floating, holding, sustained by cables and determination and the revolutionary idea that people mattered more than protocols. "You know what the funny thing is?" Eliara said. "Humans didn't teach me to fly. I could always do that. You taught me something harder." "What's that?" "That sometimes landing is braver than flying. That choosing ground doesn't mean giving up sky. That being seen is worth being vulnerable." She leaned against him. "That I could break and still be whole." Noah wrapped his arm around her, careful of damaged wings and damaged hearts, and all the ways they'd learned to hold each other gently. "Humans don't save aliens," he said, thinking of all the stories, all the propaganda, all the myths about humanity's place in the galaxy. "No," Eliara agreed. "You do something harder. You create space where power doesn't need hiding, where difference doesn't need defending, where broken things can heal in their own time, in their own way." She looked up at him. "You teach the galaxy that survival isn't about being strongest. It's about being stubborn enough to keep caring when caring costs everything." The sun set over Lyrith, painting the sky in impossible colors. Two broken people watched it together, held up by nothing but choice and stubborn human refusal to let math decide who mattered. In the gardens, seeds became saplings. In the city, differences became bridges. In the spaces between broken and healing, humanity and everything it touched learned the same lesson: that perfect was the enemy of present, that efficiency was nothing compared to empathy, that the strongest structures weren't the ones that never broke. They were the ones that broke and chose to stand anyway. Humanity, in all its messy, complicated, beautiful refusal to optimize people into problems. In the end, humanity didn't win because it was stronger, smarter, or more efficient. Humanity won because it refused to let fear, math, or comfort decide who was allowed to matter. And in a universe obsessed with optimization, that quiet refusal might be the most dangerous power of all. So here's the question the story leaves behind, hovering in the air like wings that were finally allowed to open. When survival demands that someone be reduced to a tool, who do you choose to become? How much of yourself would you hide just to feel safe? And what would it cost you over a lifetime? And if the moment comes when choosing others breaks you, would that break be a failure or proof that you lived honestly? If this story stayed with you, write the word choice in the comments, not because the algorithm demands it, but because it means you were here until the end. Tell us what city, what planet, what corner of Earth you're watching from. We like knowing where stubborn humans gather. If this universe speaks to you, consider subscribing, liking, hyping, and sharing. Not as clicks, but as signals, little flares saying this kind of story deserves to exist. And when the next story appears in the final card on screen, open it. Not because you're afraid to miss out, but because curiosity is still one of humanity's best survival traits. After all, wings aren't what makes someone brave. Choosing to be seen is. Humanity, still wildly inefficient, still emotionally unoptimized, still refusing, loudly and humorously, to give up on each other. And honestly, that's why the galaxy keeps underestimating us.